What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Today we have Dylan and Kai. How you doing, boys?
Good.
Good.
How's everyone else doing?
Wonderful, hopefully. What's going on, Aaron, Sid, Tracy? What's going on, Bert? Hopefully you guys having a wonderful Wednesday. So today we thought it'd be fun to talk about things that you wish you knew when you started reefing. I know all of us, there's certain lessons learned over time. Dylan, I know you have many. Many. What do you wish you knew when you started a year or so ago? Oh wait, first of all, if you guys don't know, Dylan's actually, you both have floating tanks.
We do.
Look at us go.
We do. I thought he copied me, and then I realized that I actually copied him without knowing it.
Okay, that's the best compliment you can get, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so Kai has a floating corner tank, and you have a floating flat wall tank.
Like a wall.
Yeah. Okay.
How big's your tank?
98.
Yeah,
mine's
100 basically.
Yeah.
I got mine from a friend. He was just, I think it was
Yeah.
like a favor, basically, $50 so I didn't get it out of my garage.
Right,
Perfect.
right.
And then it just escalated. I'm like, well, now
Yeah.
it's in the wall.
Now the addiction's set in.
Yeah.
I appreciate how you both put it on the wall. It does make me happy. I like random extreme things. It's more fun.
I don't regret it.
Yeah? No regrets?
No, none.
Did you know it would be this much crazy when you were like, let's put a tank on the wall?
No, because we've been friends for so long, you know me.
Yeah.
I wish you would have told me how much I would have been in. This is definitely an expensive. At first, I was like, oh.
And then we all laughed.
I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
$5,000. Okay, yeah, sure. I want to do this. It's on my bucket list. I've always wanted to do a saltwater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm if you include my HRV, I'm $20,000 in.
Well,
And that's with deals.
do you consider the HRV part of the tank?
It's basically a necessity for me because of the moisture.
Fair.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put it this way. If I didn't have the tank, I wouldn't need it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay.
That's a good way of putting it.
All right, so first one, how much money it would cost? You can be cheap and ghetto, but we all know we do more on the fancy side. You do the same thing I do. What do you think, man? Did you?
I don't know if I really have any regrets. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 8 years old, so I mean, there's no regrets at that age, right? You just kind of keep evolving with it. I have no way of even guessing the financial dollar value. It just keeps going from one to the next, and you upgrade, and just because you change the glass, that doesn't mean you've changed the tank at all.
Yeah.
I've got a couple items that I had over a decade now. So how do you?
Yeah.
I think for me, what would be the big one is I wish I knew the importance of getting good gear the first time and being on top of the water entering my fish tank. I think the number one thing I think that really kind of stooped me was making sure that I had reverse osmosis water that was clean heading into it. And I know that's opinion. I know not everybody's going to agree with me on this one, but the cleaner the water going in, the less work you have to do once it's in there to remove it, right?
True.
So
Very true.
I think that would be my number one thing that I see, especially with newcomers heading into the hobby. I wish the importance of clean water was stressed.
That's a fair point. That's a good one. I started out hauling buckets of water back in the day, and that got old fast, so I eventually bought a thing. But I used to go take the 5-gallon buckets of the water thing and throw it on and fill it up, and then it got old really, really quick. So RDI is a must, in my opinion.
Well, I told you from the beginning, I'm like, I want to be a lazy reefer.
Not a thing.
No, I wasn't joking around when I said that. I want to have this thing mostly automated.
Yep.
Right? But I mean, you gotta spend the money to do that, though.
I think we all aspire to kind of almost automate it, right? We're all that kind of techie type of person that wants the thing just to do it itself. And I'll spend 30 hours to save myself 15 minutes, right?
I'll do the same thing.
You know what the funny thing is, though? Because you always joke, because I probably have some of the most fancy gadgets on my tank for some of the most easiest coral on the planet. So when I say $20,000, that doesn't even account for the rock or the fish or the coral.
So, just prefix here. Dylan's tank is mainly Xenia.
Okay, so it's half Xenia.
You know what though? If it's pulsing,
and
it is pretty.
And the other half, is GSP.
Hey, man, is she doing well?
It's doing too well. So I need to cut some back, but
Good Aptasia and green.
Even with all the gadgets and all the stuff, man, I still putting honestly, like, enough time into my tank.
Yeah.
Like that, like more than I want to do.
Okay, so one thing just to point out, I know before you didn't necessarily test your tank ever. So now you have a Mastertronic and an Alcatronic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have automated testers. But part of the reason that you don't have a lot of the other corals is because you never tested or dosed, which is kind of a requirement for keeping them happy. So now that you have the
Right.
fancy stuff, you probably could do that now.
I mean,
And they would probably finally be happy now.
I mean, I like the flowy, kind of cheaper coral, I guess.
Mhm.
So I don't really care about the other stuff, but yeah, I definitely, I know there's people out there that have way nicer coral and they don't even have as close to the gadgets like I do. I mean, like your tank, you get what, 2 tanks with every single gadget on the market. Like, I don't even
Probably.
want to know how much yours are.
I don't either.
No,
It's safer not to
no
know.
one knows. We can't broadcast that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely like quadrupled more, like way more than I ever expected.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know if I ever would have gone to this extent if I really knew.
I think a lot of us didn't really know what
No.
it was going to snowball into, right?
You know what, though? You can think about any hobby. Like,
It's true.
My-
I say it to every person. It's pick any hobby and it's going to cost you. If you're invested into
Yeah.
it, even snowboarding, what is a really nice snowboard actually worth? Like, and then you get into
gloves,
everything around
goggles,
it, right?
bindings,
Oh, it's
you know,
ridiculous.
everything.
But it's just how far do you want to take that one, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately we're the wrong breed of person to just not take it easy, right?
Yeah.
We, I guess we're all kind of similar.
Hmm.
I think we do everything to the extremes. Well, I know if you
That's
think
fair.
if you think about
Yeah.
it, I got 3 snowboards hanging on my wall, so. And I know, Devin, you do everything to the extremes. Like,
Yeah.
did-
We're all
you
just
should show, you
and
should
this
show
is just
them
flowers.
this.
Yeah. I might do a video on that.
Your new project over here.
Yeah, I might do a video on that one soon. Yeah.
But you know what?
Everybody's what we're looking at right
I
now.
think
Yeah.
the more money you invest, like I'm totally committed now. Like I'm in. I can't back out now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but the more money you spend, the less time and work you need to kind of do, I guess,
Yeah.
to prevent problems.
Yeah, no, so true.
Right?
Sid, I wish you knew the amount of wires and cables are running everywhere. If you're doing something built in, or you are doing stuff, pre-running a ton of RODI lines and some power wires will make your life easier later, especially when you want to automate water changes or automate your ATO and all the type of jazz. Same thing, like I ran a bunch upstairs and downstairs, and still I find myself fighting wires through to like add ozone next or add something else in. So
You know, Sid, you absolutely nailed it on that one too. That's something a lot of people overlook. I have a customer who wanted to have a tank put in by a company out of Vancouver. And they came in, they said, hey, no problem, whatever, and their quote came in cheaper than the one that we were going to do. And I look at it, I'm like, well, you're missing a lot of things, like, for example, even just running a chiller. There was no provisions for the chiller. You know, the actual electrical run to it was half what it actually should have by the time you put real pumps onto it. But once the home is finished and completed, there's no way of running that heat exchanger outside anymore. Those lines need to be in beforehand, right? So there is no going back at that point. So it is nice to have somebody to bounce stuff like that off of. And ultimately, one of the reasons I did float my tank is so I don't see any of those wires. So yeah, I'm that guy with you on
Heck
that
yeah.
one. I really like that comment, Sid.
yeah.
Where's all your equipment?
It's in my basement.
Oh, perfect.
And it's crawl space. Like everything's hidden.
So we have similar settings.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Mhm.
I followed you on
Whatever. Yeah, okay, sure. So it's like mine's basically underneath my stairs, and then underneath that, directly under, I have a 50-gallon tank, which
Very-
basically for salt. Like I
Perfect.
hand make the salt, so it just automatically does that.
Let's go. Good on you. Good on you.
Well, that was Devin's idea.
Yeah, you know what? That's the fun part about the hobby. It brings people together. You get to bounce ideas off each other. The amount of things we work off each
For
other.
sure.
It's hilarious.
We still
That's
got.
true.
I still
That's
have
fun.
one more idea that I really want to test.
What
I
is
think
it?
I told you this,
What?
right? I want to take water out
Mm-hmm.
of my sump, and I want to clean it with whatever ozone or
Yeah.
filtration, like totally nuke the water and basically put it back in the tank. I don't want to use salt. I want to try and reuse it, salt water.
Public aquariums do that on large scale with like a massive vat, and they'll like run ozone through it and stuff to sterilize and clean it, and the water change back. So it is totally doable to an extent.
There's that idea, and then I was also thinking about, I don't know if it would be worth it, but like doing like a loop coming off your hot water tank or something, and
Mhm.
using that to heat your aquarium water, because I think normal temperature range is for in Canada here, Celsius, what is it, like 25, 26 degrees Celsius?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it would save...
I'm doing heat pumps quite a bit lately. I've got 3 tanks right now that are running
Nice.
heat pumps.
Really?
So you consider it like a spa pack. Once you get to a certain level, you just kind of run it like a pool or a hot
Yeah.
tub, right? But man, the heat exchangers, your $5K initial cost, but once it's in and it's done, it literally does everything. And
How does that
next
work?
to free. So you actually, you run some copper lines outside, and you have your heat exchanger outside, very much like your air conditioner or your heater, like a heat
Right.
pump for a home. Exactly
Yep.
the same thing.
Really?
So it's got a chiller base where you run water through it, and it works really, really well. I got one customer who runs his whole house off solar, so he literally just runs the heat exchanger off of it for free, and
That's awesome.
That's cool.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah.
It's not worth on a 100-gallon tank, but if you have like
No.
a 400 or 500-gallon tank, it's probably worth it.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, if you're
depends on
running
the
a
scale.
vat and all this stuff anyways, you're kind of
Right.
invested now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty interesting. I like that idea.
Make small scale stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Well, another cool thing that my uncle did is he did kind of like a little heat pump thing, but off his hot water tank to heat his floors, like a big loop all through it.
Yeah.
So which is you can certainly do similar thing for your tank to heat it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So lots of cool stuff you get
It's
creative.
so creative, I like it.
Yeah. So if your tank's big enough, it's definitely worth looking not spending $1 billion on heating it. I've seen a lot of comments too about the crazy amounts of wires in the tank. Yeah, there is.
Yours tank?
Every-
All of them.
every
You get an
tank.
Apex in your sewer.
Yeah, like how many things you have plugged in everywhere, right? Like that's a fairly common thing.
Oh, sorry, my microphone's falling here, but
Yeah.
my tank is a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, and you're an electrician.
That's, you know what though, to be fair, you do your job at the
I know.
daytime, you come home and you
I
never
know,
want to do
I
that.
know,
You know,
I
the detailer always has the dirtiest card.
Yeah.
Is that too high?
No, you're fine. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. But yeah, no, there's always way more wires, and there's so much crap. One actually like pro tip thing, those splitter cables for like equipment go a long way. If you buy them off Amazon for like 10, 15 bucks, but it's like one plug that can go to like 2, 3, 4. So like I put all my power heads on one, I put all my lights on one. Like you can
like
group
it.
equipment, especially for using like an Apex or a controller, then you could group all your like stuff onto one plug, which will save you power bars. Like obviously you don't want to do like overload the plug, but if within reason.
One common mistake I see a lot in the field too is putting your power lines down low. We
Mm-hmm.
all get lazy, we all do it, we put things in the sump. Man, it takes one auto
Drip.
top off or
Yeah.
drip or
Oh.
what, and man, I've seen it countless amounts of times. And salt creep alone just
Yeah.
it just covers all the stuff, and I see it constantly. So make sure you're putting your wires up high, guys. Think about physics and how water goes down, and you'd be surprised. But I've actually seen a fish tank caught fire, and it was funny. It was actually mine off that stuff.
That's crazy.
So it's about 15, 20 years ago now, and I'm heading to work, and girlfriend calls me up. She's in the shower, and she's like, "Your fish tank's on fire, losing it on me." I'm like,
How's that possible?
"Hey, that's not possible." She's like, "Shut up!" I'm like, "Okay, serious time." So I rip her up.
Yeah.
She, sure as heck, yep. This thing, it's got flames coming out the back. I had this battery backup on it, so the fish are none the wiser. They're literally just going around. All the
Yeah.
power's out in the house and everything. There's smoke all over, and the fish are just swimming around. So I looking, yep, sure as heck, what happened? Just power plugs down low. The salt creep got onto them.
It
Adapted,
happens.
Crazy.
the breaker,
Yeah.
caught fire, battery backup, kept the pumps and stuff going. But
Yeah.
everything worked out in the end. It was thankfully, but we can't always say it is going to be like that, right?
Yep.
That's the reality to
True.
it. That stuff happens so quickly and so easily that I do definitely urge that.
Do you use GFCIs in your tanks?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to.
Yes, I do. But I actually had a leak once where I have a UV light, which it's not running right now. But anyways, I got it. But it's external. It's like 3 feet or something, right?
Yeah.
And so I have a pump that pumps water, and the hoses and the whole UV light is basically external, sitting on the ground beside the sump. And one of the hoses came undone once, and it was just like water everywhere, seeping through the floor into the crawl space.
Dang.
It was fine, but it was just like, man, I should have put hose clamps on that.
Yes.
I have been favoring zap straps lately
Yeah.
instead of hose
Yeah.
clamps.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I find not a lot too people use hose clamps and they rust.
Yeah.
You've got issues with rust in your tank, right?
Plastic ones.
Or copper, right?
Yep.
Yeah, if I
Copper
had- not
yeah.
that bougie.
Oh, we
got
got
a
a visitor.
Staff straps
We got a
work.
visitor.
Hello, friend.
Yep.
Come on up. Come on, bud.
So another one. Okay, hose clamps definitely important. Plastic ones ideally. I mean metal in a
Or-
pinch.
or
Staff straps a
copper.
good idea actually. No copper. Copper and saltwater bad.
What? I thought copper was good.
For saltwater?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
That'll poison corals.
Good. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I thought copper didn't.
Freshwater
Rust-
fine.
rust or
Saltwater? No.
Why are all my crustaceans dying?
So you,
Yeah.
so you learn something new every day.
Yep. Yeah, the pooch knows how to open the door. But yeah, no. So general saltwater, don't use copper fittings on anything saltwater. Saltwater will leach, could potentially kill coral and like crustaceans, so like shrimp and stuff.
I have an old coat hanger that I bent that's in the sump, holding
Love you, man. That's awesome.
holding a filter sock in place. Is that okay? It's rusty a little
He's not a
bit.
filter sock. I got him points on that one.
It's a little bit rusty. Does that help with nutrients?
Probably not. Okay, so we should replace that with
We'll have to
something
run an
that's
ICP
not an
test on
old.
that one to verify.
Yeah, something that's not a cold
Interesting.
hanger.
Okay.
Yeah.
We learn something new every day.
We'll make one. We'll
I
make
actually
one
might
of
in my car have a filter sock holder too on a 7-inch ring. It just like clips onto the side of the sump. It's got 2 little bolts on it. I'm sure I got it.
This one's like a rectangle 7-inch filter sock. I have a Clear C, but I still like the filter sock because it catches all the bigger stuff in it.
I
find
got a broken Claire C too. Don't worry.
No, mine's not broken. The damn alarm goes off all the time though.
Yeah. And then you just walk away from it because it's in your basement.
No.
So I tell you know how so I read up in the instructions. If the Clear C doesn't rotate at least once or something within an 8-hour period, it goes into alarm, thinking that the motor jammed or whatever. Right?
Yeah, or it's out of a roll.
So I had my hydro system. Basically, I programmed it to turn off for a little bit and then turn back on, thinking that it would like restart the clock.
Yep.
But I don't think it works.
Well,
Just hangs on to him,
I tried to trick it, right?
maybe you have to leave it off for longer.
Maybe that's probably what it is.
Or just use the Clarity and not a filter sock, because it's probably not spinning because you're pre-filtering before
It
the
does
filter.
spin because I can hear it goes, and I can hear it.
Sounds about
And
right.
if you wanted to, drill another pilot hole into the side of the casing down an inch or two and move that float sensor down.
Right.
That would work as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm always fiddling. There's always something
It's
here
the
and
fun
there.
part, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're pointing out all these things you got to do.
Yeah.
Like like I said, like even with all the gadgets and this and that, and you got to clean the glass and you got to feed the fish and all this stuff. Like I still find that there's so many things that you have to do. Like, I still have my filter sock, I have my Clear C, I have my skimmer. Like there's just so many things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you wash your filter socks or replace? Be honest.
I'm cheap.
You're a washer? Yeah.
I put
I
it-
wish I could. I always say
What?
I'm gonna do it, and then they
Save
end
the
up
planet,
somewhere where
man.
it's so dirty where I'm like, I'm not washing that.
I put it in the wash with some bleach, done for like an hour, on the extra heavy duty cycle.
Mhm.
That's it.
I used to have about 12 socks, so whenever I changed them, they just go in a 5-gallon bucket and it'd be stinky and nasty, and
Oh,
then
I got this stink bucket at
Yeah.
home too.
when it's full, you eventually wash them.
I wash
Yeah,
them.
okay.
I wash
Yeah.
them one by one, man.
Used to. Now I just do the filter roll, and I'm too lazy for that.
Yeah.
Don't have to deal with it. Don't have to putting stinky socks in your washing machine.
But when you have big chunks of algae like me, man, does the Clear C?
I don't have big chunks of
That's just
algae.
GSP.
It's a non-issue.
making its way through the filter
I'm
sock.
joking. It's got more. Actually, I had better levels than you. Don't be jealous.
Of what?
Water parameters.
What are you talking about?
Your nutrients in your tank, mine are lower than yours.
I've actually been dosing nitrates, so this one to get rid of dino. So on that note, yeah. So,
God, was quiet.
yeah. So fun story. I've been trying a new experiment because I've had dinos started to come in the ops tank beside me. So with that one, I started dosing neonitro to boost up my nitrates and been dosing silicates, and so far it's been working.
Oh, you
So-
could have asked me. I had some.
Oh,
I would have to agree. I don't see a big dino outbreak.
and you should here. Look at this. I'll find you a photo from a few days ago.
And you got a copper band in there.
You
Right.
betcha.
Yeah,
You
boy.
betcha, buddy. I want to shank. Love those guys.
Mine passed away.
They're really hard to keep.
I was really sad. Like I said, everything went bad at the same time.
That was a few days ago. Look at all that nasty dinos.
It's even
So-
holding on to the oxygen.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's see if that shows up. But that was nasty dinos a few days ago. So anyway, so I'll give it a week or so, and maybe I'll do a video on that if my new strategy works out. So trying something different this time.
Everything dies off. I really regret posting that.
You gotta go through everything to really figure out exactly what to do whenever it happens again. Like I used to be so stressed out. Okay, you get dinos and then people will be like, oh, do a water change, and then you do that. and then it would just like make it worse, right? And then you would go from dinos to having algae and then this and that, and like I said, you got to go through all of that stuff to like really know. And now, like I used to stress out for like the longest time, and I was like, no, I don't even worry about it. There's a solution to everything. You got algae, fluconazole. You got cyano, chemically. You got nutrients, no pox and phosphate.
Hey, that's if it works for you, right? That's the fun part about it. There's so many different methods and solutions to each problem.
There's a product chemical solution for anything.
Oh man.
Yep.
Wonders.
So, something I've never done before. Most people remove silicates from their tank. So I picked up the Sponge XL and I was actually dosing silicates. Putting like 80 drops a day of this to like boost up the silicates. And
80?
yeah.
You're literally dropping 80 drops there?
Yeah, I counted.
That's awesome.
I actually counted. Give or take 10 from losing count. But yeah, just because the theory is that the diatoms outcompete the dinos, right?
Okay.
So you're trying to cause a diatom bloom in a weird way. So anyways, that's one of the current experiments going on.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Science. I like it.
For science. So what else have you learned over time that you wish you knew when you first started?
Okay, for instance, you're talking about dinos, right? Like
Yeah.
you're dosing this or whatever. One thing, it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it takes time to whatever work its magic.
Yeah.
Like sure, you may see results in a few days or whatever, depending on whatever product you're using. But yeah, you got to give it like 2 or 3 weeks or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the whole nothing good happens fast thing's usually true. It's usually trouble if it happens too quick. Ease into her. Yep, it's true.
I mean, lately I would say, and I'm sure you said this a million times to me, and I never really took it that serious, but like alk, like your alk level, when you're like, when you're trying to increase your alk. So I would just take the baking soda and just dump it in my tank and be like, oh, okay, I got to bring it up to 8 or 8.5, right? Not realizing multiple times, at different times, that my coral were dying. Or my anemones or whatever. I didn't realize like how slowly you have to do it.
Oh, you're just like dumping in like, oh, here's a cup of baking soda in the tank.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
you know what, though, you live and learn. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, you learn from experience, and that's the only way. I mean, somebody at first had to learn that method too, right? Someone else has done that same mistake.
Yep.
But
don't beat yourself up over it.
But then when something went wrong, I didn't realize that was the issue I was doing, right? And then when you go through it a bunch of times, then you finally realize it. Like I said before in another video, like there's so many people saying so many different things. It's hard to filter out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
And it's based off positives too, so these people might not even be wrong either. You know, like I know somebody that uses lake water to fill up their tank, and I just said you gotta use RO, but
Lake water?
Yeah.
totally. Yep.
Okanagan Lake.
You know, best advice I ever gave to somebody is look at the tank that person has, and if you don't have the tank, if they don't have a tank that you want, don't take their advice.
Yeah.
You know, like if I look at Devin's tank, and I'm like, yup, I'm gonna take his advice, but like, you know, if you got green hair algae and all the other stuff, I'm probably not gonna go to that person for advice or like listen to what they gotta say.
So, for instance, when you say lake water, like freshwater tank?
Nope, saltwater.
Oh, what?
Okay. Actually, maybe some of the viewers can say something. Who fills up their tank with water from like the ocean? Because I mean, I wouldn't be against it. Like if I live near the
Gas
ocean,
is cheaper.
I would definitely grab a bucket of water and go down the ocean and be like, oh, I just need to take out the seaweed and like put it through a filter and be like, oh, that's free salt water.
Let's run a pipeline.
Yeah.
Right?
If I lived on the beach, there would probably be a big pipe going way out.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I find salt expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, it just went up crazy
Did it?
too. Yeah, I went to go reorder and like, oh, I'm gonna make this to people.
Even more reason to try.
I'm just ordering it now. I got a whole bunch at home. Like,
Yep.
for sale.
Stock up now.
You know, like Devin, you made a really good comment like a while ago. We were talking because I was like, oh, I really want to reuse my salt water and save money on purchasing salt and all that stuff. And then you're like, instead of, I think I'm going off topic here, but basically like remove the nutrients and all the stuff out of the water.
Well, Okay, so you're doing a water change to either remove something or add something, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is a water change?
What is a water change? Well, we have some water and we remove some and we add some new water. No, but basically you're doing it to either remove nitrates, right?
Right.
Or a toxin or pollutant, or you're using it to add nutrients or trace elements back in, right? So you can do less water changes by adding or taking that stuff out via other methods, right?
Filtration.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
So it depends on the style, right? Some people are like heavy into dosing everything. Some don't want to worry about it and they just want to do water change and let that cover it. So depends.
That's where I'm going more towards the dosing.
See, I see this all the time. The water change thing, it does help for the first little while, but
Yep.
it sets you up for failure because you have an expectation that this could continue to work. So I ran into this even a week ago. I went to a friend's house, looked at her system, and she says, Kai, everything's dying off. And I look, and her alkalinity when I metered it was at, I think it was 110 or something. No, it was like 90.
Yeah.
It was super, super low. And she's like, but I do water. And I look, and I'm like, you do water changes weekly, don't you? She's like, oh, I'm really religious about it.
But how
her
much of a water
calcium was
change?
up like 50%.
Okay.
A lot.
That's a big one.
But the thing is, after 8 months or so, if you keep changing half the water, you're only fixing half the issue
Yeah.
every time, and you're exponentially going to increase that gap every time, right?
Yeah.
You do have to go the dosing rate at that point. When you start to get into the corals, there's no way to catch up by just doing the water changes. And I see it all the time where eventually it will catch up to the point where you have to add something new or do a massive water change
Yeah.
to make up for it, which is stressful in the corals and stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I seldom change water, man. I'm
Yeah.
once or twice a year. I got pretty bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I run my calcium reactor, I run a calc stir, and I have I think probably 8 dosing pumps set up where I just
Yep.
and I do not.
So
change
what do you?
water.
So how do you get your nutrients down? Is it just really good filtration, or like what is it?
I would say so. Yeah, I run pretty much everything under the sun.
Like for me, I basically got rid of my Chaeto, Kato. I just have like basically just a skimmer, a Clarity, a filter stock. Okay, I guess I can say Ozone, which I actually think Ozone's really good.
I love
Ozone now. I've been running even longer now, but and then just no and phosphate E, which I feel is like probably the best.
Yeah.
That combined with the skimmer is like your best weapon.
Yeah, I'm a skimmer. I got an algae reactor, so I got the reef octopus there growing there. I've got a biological filter down there. It gets live rock or whatever have you.
Oh, okay.
Or crabs or
I have
whatever.
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
little refugium.
The cute thing.
Yeah. What else am I running through there? UV light, big boy on it. The filter roller. That's about it.
Really?
It just does its own thing. It just exists.
And your levels are good?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I test
Yep.
fairly regularly. Yeah.
Nice.
Not the last couple months.
Oh, because you got a Mastertron too, right? No,
I actually just really like the tester. I use it. It's the spin
This-
touch. It works fantastic.
So, let me get this straight. You don't use a Mastertronic,
Dude, it stopped working.
but yet you
It's
sold me the one I have.
Okay, so look, I'll be honest, guys. I'm terrible with electronics. I'm so bad with it. So here's an example. So I finally did have to do a water change the other day. So I just made up a big drum in the thing. I got a vat downstairs, and I run my hoses or whatever.
Yep.
And then I log onto my Apex, and I forgot my password. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I just go downstairs and I unplug it.
Well, I have,
And then I do my thing,
I have
and
your
I go
story
back
Apex.
upstairs, and my buddy comes over. And he's like, well, you just do it all remotely, can't you? And I'm like, oh, it's all wired to the nines for sure. And then I'm like, I'll be right back. And I go downstairs and go plug it back in manually. And he's like, you're ridiculous, man. But I hate computers. I'm
hate them.
never on them. Yeah, I think it's the death of society, to be honest with you. You rely so much on that computer to do something that it stops working. What originally happened is my internet connection was terrible. So then everything's just playing left, right, and 6s and 7s. And so then finally my electronics stopped working. And I'm like, I get error 3. We all know the one. And so then I ended up tinkering with it for a little
Had
bit.
a
I'm like,
reagent.
no, I got things like that. No, it's inaccurate test.
Yeah.
So I filled all that stuff. It's just a blanket code for an inaccurate test. So it just
Ah,
didn't
okay.
work out. Apparently there's a new bean you gotta put in there to mix it. There's new heads you can put on it. There's like a thing to clear it out or whatever. And you just so many little
Whenever I
things.
get that one, it's because I'm out of reagent.
I got tons there. She's good
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I walk away from the technology and I just do it by hand. So I just take some water in once a month to my workplace and watch it. It doesn't change much.
Once
It's
a
super
month?
stable. Yeah, it's pretty stable.
Oh, that is really
My
stable.
tank's been up. in
Yeah,
the
your
wall
tank's
at least
old.
now for like 6 years probably.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
It just does its
that's
thing.
good. Yeah, so mine's not.
Like I was just telling him, I haven't looked at anything in like 6 months, probably or 5 months. Like literally, if
Oh,
the
that-
filter roller's out, I should probably do some maintenance. That's about
Oh,
all.
that's
it is.
awesome.
So it's just
when was the last time you, let's say, added fish or like let's say increased or decreased your load?
I added one diamond goby there, and he jumped out a day later. So other than that, my previous fish was like a year ago, probably. They just exist.
Okay, so relatively everything is basically.
Yep, the corals are just growing. I just up them down and a little bit here and there and tweak, and then once a month I look and I'm like, oh, I'm a little low on this one, so I'll just adjust my dosing pump on the apex to just dump a little more into it.
Right.
Yep.
So I do my trace elements. I really like my Brightwell products. So I use calcium, alkaline, magnesium. Do my trace elements, and then was it strontium, potassium, a couple other ones like that. Big old mix in there.
Yeah.
I haven't even gone on that route yet.
No, you need to.
No,
No,
I do?
Speak well. No, eventually you will when you start adding encrusting corals. Yes.
I really,
Speaking
really like
of-
my dosing pump.
Encrusting corals, that sounds expensive.
Speaking of,
Oh, it is. Oh,
Is it? I don't know if I have any more money for any of that stuff.
yeah. Okay, so speaking of lazy reefers, see my nice big dosing containers that I have to refill like rarely ever.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a dosing container.
Yeah, I did 10-gallon ATO
Those are
containers.
huge.
Yeah, 10-gallon ATO containers in my dosing reservoirs.
It was me,
So
I
I,
would-
so I spend like an hour mixing up all my stuff.
Doesn't separate or anything?
Yeah,
That's fancy. I would have used like a 4-liter milk jug.
yeah.
Yeah, I do. You know what? To be fair, I do probably go maybe every 3 months. I go through my stuff. I'll do my calc stir. That's a big one that I gotta do. I'm big onto my my reactor though. So I do run I run carbon and I run GFO, granular ferric oxide. GFO, hands down, game changer for your tank to keep your levels down.
I run GFO.
Unreal.
I actually run GFO and I think it's like the Red Sea carbon.
Yep.
I heard that's the best or something.
Yeah, carbon's carbon.
Only the
I
best
can't
for
tell
my
the
tank.
difference, to be honest with you. I do really like the higher end brand names. I find are a lot more granular, so larger pieces. So, for example, Brightwell. I use Brightwell carbon in mine because it sits in the reactor very well. They're little pellets, so it actually has a really good motion of gyrating. When I go to the fluval one, it's just so fine. It's almost like a coffee dust sort of thing, so it doesn't sit in the reactor as nicely as the other ones. So I'll probably always be Brightwell just for reasons like that.
I don't like it if it's too fine because then we're trying to get out of the reactor. Or
Absolutely,
clogs
yeah.
up your sponges. It's more of a
So you're
technical
talking about carbon?
Yep.
Okay, so here's a question because I'm a newbie, right? I don't know anything.
Yeah, you say that. You've been in it a year. You got some floods. We can tell.
So I got some battle scars. Okay, so I just take the stuff and throw it kind of like in a mesh bag and just throw it in there. Like,
Which is gonna work.
Do you think there's a significant difference in having a reactor? Like, is it worth it?
I personally do.
How much is it? Like, aren't those things expensive?
No, you can get a basic reactor around $80, something like that. And even that, you could find a used one for $20 from a buddy. Like honestly, I hoard used ones because I just put them all in all friends' tanks, all the people. I honestly, personally, I would never not run a reactor if I had the option to.
For GFO and carbon?
Yeah, I one each for both. So I have just a little pipe, pump. Sorry, it's just like a standard, magnetic drive pump. It goes up through, I think, 3/4 inch. It tees off 2 directions. I have a ball valve on each, so I can adjust them, and then it goes into those. What are they called again? The the one everybody has, those reactors.
Oh, the two little fishies.
The 2 little fishies, yep. Which I don't know if you can even get the little ones right now because COVID, but I really like those reactors. They're just basic. They do what they're supposed to. You can replace a sponge for $2, and they just
Interesting.
become the industry standard. They will leak, so always put them in your sump. It's not when, it will for sure.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're putting it somewhere fail-safe that if it leaks or not. But yeah, I would say a reactor is substantially better than just
Okay,
a bag.
I'll have to look into it. I mean, one thing I think a lot of people have a problem with or concern, I guess, whatever you want to say it, is finding all the room for all this stuff. Like we're lucky, right?
So I didn't want to say it to discourage people. When you had mentioned what is your number one thing, starting up, I wish people would know more about. My biggest issue that I have is not having a sumped tank and not having a protein skimmer. Those two actually, I'll be honest, they kind of bug me. When
having a
people come
sump?
in and not have that stuff, it's hard because you have so much equipment that you do require. But then the stigma is, well, it's a little tank, but why does the size of the tank dictate the filtration the corals and fish deserve? Just because now he's in a tiny box, he doesn't deserve to have a protein skimmer. But I see so many advantages of just even removing the fish waste to the protein skimmer, like adding oxygen and keeping that water moving. I find that it's just not really an option. And to add a proper protein skimmer, you do really need a sump. It's just
Yeah, no,
the
it's fair.
hang-on back ones, they work okay. You're never going to beat some big boy, big powerhouse sitting in your sump churning.
But if you had like I don't know what the smallest saltwater tanks some people have, 10 gallon or I don't know. I guess it's easy for them to just do like a large water change.
But we just talked about that, right?
You're trying to
Big
do
water.
water changes.
And now here's the thing
But
too,
the
like you're
tank
gonna
is a
feed
lot
the corals
smaller.
like once a month, as opposed to like several times a day consistently.
Right.
Would you want to be fed once a month, or would you multiple times a day?
Well,
Right?
depends.
So
If
corals are
summer,
the same way.
if summer's coming up and I want to, shred.
So here's, I like that. I respect that. But here's the thing too. Like I've got 3 nanos at home. They're all drilled with a sump on them. Why can't you just do that?
Yeah.
You drill a hole in the back and put some plumbing on it. Cost you $100.
I mean,
you put a sump in
the benefits of having a skimmer are so. It's probably like my number one first filtration device. I would say.
I would agree with that. I think it's your most important.
I
for
think
sure.
so.
Well, the other big consideration too is it adds a lot of oxygen to the water, right?
Absolutely.
So it's really gonna help oxygenate your water. Like even if it's not for nutrients, the oxygen benefits I think are
You
huge.
see it in your pH graph right off the.
Oh yeah, mine tanked the skimmers off.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I ran a fresh air source right to mine, and like I bet you I go up 4 or 5 points in my pH just by turning it on and off.
Yeah.
And that's crazy if you think about that, to go up like that amount off just having a protein skimmer.
Really?
Yeah. But it's I see it all the time. I see these tanks get set up, and 8 months down the road, I got algae problems. What's going on here? And you're like, well, where's your protein skimmer at? And, well, it's not here. And then all of a sudden, okay, well, my phosphates are a little high, and okay, and you can tell though, even if you're doing water changes, you're only changing half of it, or let's say you're balling out, you're taking 80% out of that water, well, all the bacteria is still stuck inside in your tank. It's not being removed anywhere, right? I am a firm believer in having a skimmer and having a sump setup that you have some room to play with. For example, like your issues, for example, with running like carbon. Like if you don't have a spot to have a reactor, you could always get a cut to fit pad that has like carbon or phosphate removal, and you can put it in your sump where water's flowing through it.
Right.
But without a sump, you just don't have that option. There isn't one. So now you're kind of stuck to what they put in the back of the box for self-filtration. But most of those hobbyists fail because they aren't aware of the proper way to do it, and you try to jam these things in these tiny nano boxes, and it's really difficult. It's challenging for that person, and it makes it more harder, I would say, than it is to do it with a proper setup. And it can be done. There's tons of people that run successful all-in-ones.
With the big water change though, I was thinking on a nano, that's one situation where it does work because you can do a massive water change super easy. If you are going to do that though, you got to make sure you keep parameters where the salt is at, so it's not a big swing or shock every time you do it.
Temp and salinity.
Yeah.
I could see, like there was a point within the first year when I started the hobby that I was just pulling my hair out. I was going from dinos.
Look at each other.
Dude, I was going from dinos to algae to cyano to all of them at the same time, and I was like, how is this possible? I'm like,
Because salt.
because I was doing too many things and changing too many things at one time, and like honestly, like I could see a lot of people going through these same issues. You get so discouraged that people just throw in the towel, and they basically probably just get out of the hobby.
Yeah, and it's sad to see that. I agree. Yep.
Right?
I fully
And
agree
it's
with that.
such an investment. Like
People lose so much money over it, and you feel bad. Like I don't want to see people warrant failures. You want to see these successes and build people up, right?
Yeah, for sure.
right. And I find the one thing with reef tanks is if you don't get on top of the problem, it just snowballs.
Yeah.
It's
If you ignore it for too long, you
you ignore it for too long.
Yeah, it's too big water change.
You gotta if you see a problem, you like really gotta get on it. Especially with algae, like
Yeah.
do not
It's
let
easy.
algae.
It's easy to deal with a little patch. The pain in
You
the
are
butt
right.
when it takes over your rock, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, for
Dinos
sure.
pop up. I'll get to them later.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. You
Flat white
let
is about right now.
if you let it take off, it is a nightmare to deal
Yep.
with.
Sid had a really good one. Sumps with baffles are dumb, and I'll say it. Companies should make open sumps. I do.
Good comment, though, Sid.
That is a good comment. That is. I think you should have a single baffle for the return pump chamber, so your ATO is more accurate. But I agree, there is a lot of value in having a lot of open space. Like my big one beside me literally has 2 baffles, and that's it.
I do like where the other thing too is, so I have a couple setups where it is an open sump like he's suggesting, and it's nice. You got some wiggle room. It feels like you're on the highway by yourself, sailing, right?
Yeah.
One thing I did notice about it though is the water level. I don't have an auto top off on that one. I have to do that one manually. If you don't have an exact precise auto top off, you'll see your salinity swing a lot, right? Because the chamber is so much larger in that one. Let me see the camera because your chamber's where's the camera there? When you fluctuate the tiniest little bit, it actually changes your salinity level quite a bit. So even just having, like Devin mentioned, the one baffle in it is actually quite substantial, and it keeps you on point to fill it up religiously, right?
There is a benefit to some more baffles. Like I think I have 3 in my tank, and I've been planning on taking some of the other ones out because, like you said, it's kind of like pointless. But the one baffle is actually holding my clarity up.
Perfect. Yeah, something hanging on.
So I'm just like, you know what?
Yeah.
I got one of those baffles.
Yeah,
Not
it's-
above that.
I mean, I don't have it. I took my refugium out, so it's like I got some extra room now. I find refugiums take up a lot of room. And I don't know about, like, do you have one for refugium? I don't know. It's just like smelled all the time. It was gross. It's just, like, and everybody, like my daughter and my whatever, my ex-girlfriend or whatever, she's always complaining like, "Oh, your closet smells like fish."
Worst things in life.
And they just refuse to put their jackets in the closet. Right?
I got all the women out of my life, and now my basement is full of fish tanks. So
I was gonna say something, but I shouldn't. It's not appropriate.
Probably wise.
I'll tell you after.
Yeah, sounds good.
I do agree. One of the things I would love to see in more sumps is a media tray. That one for me, I've started with servicing aquariums and stuff. My favorite tanks are the ones that have a tray where I can put different types of media into it. So whether it be, like you said, just a universal bag full of carbon in it,
Right.
then you can take that bag, you spread it out a little bit, put it right underneath that drip tray, and it goes through it. So when it actually has to pass through that bag, it is so much more substantial a difference than just sitting in the sump and hoping it passes.
What's a
through,
media
right?
tray look like? I'm trying to picture this in my head.
Imagine like a flat piece of plastic that has holes in it, and then it's the sides go up, so the water catches it and it forces it to go through the holes.
Right. And then and then goes through some kind of like a filter or
Well, so that's
like
if
a mesh
it's-
bag or whatever.
So I like using the cut to fit pads. So we get these pads, Nubius or something like that. They're super cheap. Like
Okay.
even on a retail level, I think they're $8 or something for a bag of 2 of them, and they're like that big. So you can cut this thing and you can use it 4 or 5 times. I mean, we do it every week, so it lasts you like basically 8 weeks of filter sock time. But you pick
Right.
your problem. So for example, if you have ammonia, phosphates, nitrates, any of this stuff, and it actually has the agents built into the filter pad to reduce those. So I had I had a tank that had phosphates, and it was quite high. I think we were talking. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but crazy, like on the red end of the scale, right? So I started using these filter pads, and I just cut it to fit, and I slid it in there. And at the next month time, when I did the water test on it, they were almost at 0, like gone
So you're saying like
for $8.
you're saying there's something built into the pad to remove more phosphate?
Yep, if you get the phosphate one. They have carbon pads, they have just standard pads, they have ammonia remover, nitrate.
What brand is
nitrites.
this?
I think they're called Nubius or something like that.
Oh, okay. Maybe Devin will link something in the video there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's basically like doped with like GFO or something, right? So
Yeah,
or a
absolutely.
carbon, so it has that media in it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
That's
not
really
a
cool.
reactor, but
I love 'em.
or a media tray, right? You're basically forcing water to go through the media.
Is that what you use in yours, in your tank?
No, I use a filter sock, or I use a roller. I like my roller.
Because your levels are fine.
But
it's
so
not-
I look after a lot of customers' tanks and stuff, and that one I would say is my number one thing I would like to see on more sumps is having a tray where you could put stuff like that in there. Because
Right.
it's not even just that one issue. You have multiple things that you could be trying to tackle, and having the opportunity to put something into a tray like that is pretty awesome. But
Yeah.
even just your universal, like a filter floss, like how many people can really, let's be honest, how many people can afford a filter roller? They're $600. That's not more people.
Wasn't
can't
$600?
Dude, they're probably.
Is it going up now?
Maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. Anyways,
Oh,
finish.
By the time the dust clears, let's be honest, we're at $600. You bought fittings at Rona, you had all these things we got to make happen. There's no way you're doing
Maybe
it for $500.
I got all my stuff before
But
the pandemic, so
It
I
is
don't know.
definitely something that's like, it's a novelty for a lot of us. Let's keep it realistic. No one's starting up a fish tank and the first thing they're buying is the filter roller. You know, you're stressing out about lights or salt or whatever, have your live rock. You know, you're thousands of K into this. You put the filter sock on it for a while, right? But having a media tray, you can get even these, we sell filter floss, it's $15 for a roll that's 10 meters or something like that. Like 10 meters of filter floss was that going to take you till 2023 basically?
I used to go to
that in and slide it in
I
your
used to go to the fabric store and I'd go buy like a couple of meters of the stuff they use in quilts.
Yes, totally.
And when I had a nano, I'd just cut little squares and pop it in the top of my little filter thing. It was super
that's
cheap.
my favorite thing. We bring those in and we're able to help customers just get them going, just get an actual filter in there. But if you have that trade, it basically opens up a universal filtration option for you.
Now, that media that you put in, that Anuba, whatever the heck it's called. Now, could
I'm
you,
wondering what the heck is it called?
but couldn't you just slide it in between a baffle too?
You see, the thing is, if it gets clogged up, now what happens? Now you got a flood of some sort, right?
Only if your baffles are as tall as your sump. But if they're a few inches
So
lower,
it's
but
like-
yeah, I see your point.
You know the Scotch Brite pads that you get, the really thin ones? That's about what you're looking at for thickness of it,
Okay.
right? So even how do you put that in between the baffles? But I've seen it all the time where the baffle stuff just clogs up, and then all of a sudden now you've got your pump pushing this direction, and it just either goes up and flows over it, or it just goes around it. It's
Unless
just an
you-
efficient way.
Unless you put it after your refugium, because your refugium will catch all the gunk. And then it
You
would
kind of
loosen
want it before, because your refugium's there to help feeding the display, so if you like take all the coping pods out and fill it
Right.
around, you might as well just not even run one.
Okay. I mean, I think you gotta really be choosy with the weapons you pick to get the nutrients out of your tank, because you can't have everything. Unless you have like a big fish. No, but I mean like a lot of, I would say like some people are limited, right? Like look at you.
It's so true.
Like look at like even though you have a lagoon tank right here beside us, which is quite long and wide and all that stuff, and you still don't have enough space for all your stuff.
It's
Your
because I
mas-
filled every inch of it.
Exactly, and your Mastertronic is sitting on the
Outside.
floor beside it.
If I didn't have 4 10-gallon ATO containers, I mean, I probably could have fit it, but
Well, you could have got smaller ones.
but then I would have to refill them every 6 months.
Yeah, do you think you have time to do this every 4 months?
So I'm just saying, for the people out there that don't have crawl space or whatever, a closet or a fish room and all that, you got to be, picky and
friends of
choosy.
mine
Like,
that have a
like,
fish room.
like for instance, my UV light I think is like 3 foot long, which
It's true.
it's not even running right now. Like now looking back, I would have I wouldn't have had it. I thought I needed it. I got it. I'm happy I have it, but I don't use it. And Ozone,
buy it off you.
I think Ozone. I don't think you can afford it.
Probably
But
not.
I would say Ozone is probably better than UV. I think, my personal opinion.
Depends what you're trying to tackle.
And it's and
So I like
Ozone's
using
tiny.
it for flukes and for ick. I seriously, everybody comes in, hey, what do I got to do about this? What chemical, what product? And I'm so against chemicals, and I always suggest UV light. And every person that's done my suggestion has called me the next day and be like, Kai, it went away overnight.
But
And
doesn't
overnight?
But does UV really kill ick? I feel like it.
I have about a dozen examples of it working
Really?
perfectly.
Every person that's
listened to that advice has done it, and I said, please tell me how it went. Every person has said, yep,
absolutely
Okay,
different.
so-
A week ago, I had a friend with a fish, a fox face.
eyes were like foamed over.
Really?
He's like, this thing is on his deathbed. And he's like, what do
Really?
I do? And we had the chat
Okay.
about the UV. I'm like, did you get the UV light on? He's like, I'll do it tonight. So he did it tonight.
Nice.
He actually runs my daycare. Super awesome guy. I've known him a really long time. So I bring Finley in daycare next day. And he's like, Kai, thing's perfect. He looks brand new. Like his eyes were perfectly clear. He's swimming around. He wasn't upset. The tank 180'd. And he's like, I've never seen the tank clearer, better, stronger. All of it went away. He looks
Wow.
fantastic. He had so many, he had so much ick on him. Even his little fins, they were all furry. Like he looked like a fuzzy fish. It was bad. But he put that in, and literally within 12 hours, 18 hours, 180'd the tank over. And he's like, no chemicals, no
Wow.
nothing. He tried everything. He tried a freshwater dip. He tried the, was it fluconazole or whatever? He tried that. He tried the no ick, everything. He tried it for weeks through this massive. I told him, you know, I hate to say it's going to cost you $800 by the time you're done,
Wow.
but you need that UV light. And
I've
put the
had
big boy in it and went away overnight.
I've had ick before, just when this probably still have it, to be honest. Like when the fish gets stressed out, right? It kind of comes out. And like, what's your experience with UV and ick?
Okay, so first thing is ick. There's different stages of it, and one of the stages it will come off of the fish and it's free floating in like the little torment stage.
I'm laying eggs.
Yeah. Anyways, when that happens, that's the point where UV will kill it, right? When it releases from the fish. So you're basically reducing the numbers in the water column with UV killing it before it has a chance to reinfect a fish, right?
Right.
So it's not going to necessarily kill it, but it's going to keep the numbers super low, so there's less chance of it getting on the fish.
Right.
So the fish are not likely to be overwhelmed with it. I have UV. I actually just replaced the bulb like a week or two ago and turned it back on because it's been off.
Nice.
I got a new bulb.
Yeah. And
That's it. We all get the bulb, and it is there.
It just sits there.
It's like your moldings. We're never gonna seal them up after.
well, the other funny thing is because I just had it teed off. Like I added my UV in line where I used to have the cryptic reactor. So it was only a little 1/2-inch tube running it, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm curious to flow." So I bought the little Neptune flow meter and hooked it up, and I realized it's like 200 gallons per hour, and it should be like 1,000. So I ordered some 3/4-inch, bunch of 3/4-inch fittings to up that and actually get more flow through it, so it has more benefit. But if I clean the glass less, I'm happy with UV.
I think there's one thing we should say that I guess to the viewers is like when you run UV, you got to run your water slow enough through it for it to work better.
Yep.
Well, yeah, but you got to find that line, right? It can't be too slow that you don't get enough of your tank turnover actually
Right.
hitting it. Or if it's too fast, there's not enough contact time. So you got to find the happy medium.
There's a chart on the website there too, I think, under, it's, I can't remember now. You can jump online, you literally type in the flow meter chart. Like
Yeah.
fresh
Right,
salt
right,
or
right.
whatever. It's crazy the difference between fresh and salt. Eh?
Oh, fresh is like bazillions of gallons.
They did like a 30,000 gallon pond. I'm like, alright, or like
Yeah.
120 gallon fresh salt.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Alright.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's like you said, it's 3-4 feet long, right?
Wow. Sorry. Side note here. What's the topic of this video again? What are we talking about here?
Stuff you wish you knew when you started.
Okay, well,
That's
there's
a rough topic.
There's a couple changes that I did on my tank lately that I found very, very beneficial. So one of the things is my Claire C. I have a different return pump that runs like all the time, and it just does my UV and it does my Claire C. I know I'm a little bit cold too, and so basically I increased the flow to the Claire C, and man, that thing is going like crazy.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely noticed a change there, so I'm really happy with that change. It just filters so much better now with more water going through it. The second thing I did is that I was dosing phosphate E directly into the top of my skimmer. You know, kind of like when all the foam and the bubbles come up, and it was kind of dripping onto there.
It's a good way to do it.
I thought it was.
Why wasn't it?
And it wasn't. And the problem with that is, I kind of used some logic a little bit, maybe I'm wrong, but it was dripping onto the foam, and I don't think it was being effective as much. So basically you want to have it in the water so it can combine to the gunk. So I took it out of there, and I actually took the line and I put it right into the middle of my Claire C, and I saw like a dramatic change.
Good spot for it.
Right?
Because it mixes up well.
Yeah.
So
So
with
the
phosphate E, they say you're supposed to filter with a small microfilter because of the, what's that called, lanthanum stuff?
Lithium chloride.
Yeah,
it
gets in the
fish's
fish's gills and
all
all that.
Well, Claire C filters at what, 20 microns?
Yeah, around there.
20 microns, I'm pretty sure.
So some people will just take the phosphate E and they'll drip it right into their tank, into their display or their sump, and they're fine. If it's a low dose, like I guess they're good enough. But I just put it right into my Claire C, and what a difference! Like instead of my skimmer getting gunked up and not really getting actually, like the phosphate E didn't get into the water, like it was just kind of staying at the top, right, and getting clogged up. It just, what a difference!
Good advice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So basically more contact time, and then most of the particulates of phosphate gets trapped in the filter roller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good spot for it to charity, a lot of water moving in there, right? When it actually hammers down there.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So between those two things that I changed,
My filtration was just more than quadrupled.
and efficiency.
Solid. I like it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, with I saw a couple comments too about using peroxide. So supposedly that does actually help with ick. I know Humble Fish. He does a lot of like medication fish stuff, and he's done some stuff on doing it. So I've dosed hydrogen peroxide for algae. It also has a similar thing to like ozone in a way. Will help clarify your oxidized stuff in your water. And even actually, I've been dosing 15 mils a day as well as part of the anti-dino thing. My little current test regime.
That's right. Yeah, I was trying your last one too. We had the.
Yeah. So far it's been working. So I mean, peroxide is a good one too. Good old
I
H2O2.
chose peroxide.
Yeah.
I don't know if it does anything, but you know what? I feel better.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah. My buddy Brad, he used to have it on a dose or two, and he had it dosing automatically every day. He's like, nope, never get algae, nothing. He swore by it too, but
Yeah, nice setup though too.
yeah, he did.
He was doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
So recently, Devin's gonna laugh here. So recently, I ordered myself and I installed a ORP sensor. So ORP is different from OLI.
Dylan, do you know what ORP is?
Yes, it measures the oxygen in the water.
No.
Oxidation.
I'm gonna stay out of this.
It's the dirtiest water, isn't it? Overall quality.
Basically how much oxygen is in the water.
No.
No?
Oxygen
Tell
reduction
us.
potential.
Teach us.
It's not how much oxygen is in your water. There is dissolved oxygen probes. They're hella expensive though. ORP is kind of the cleanliness of the water, but not. It's a weird one.
It's not OLI. OLI is the clarity of the water with the...
Yes, that's okay. That's mastertronic
Yeah.
parameter, which is basically your water clarity. It just uses the light sensor to see how clear your water is. So it's a good indication. You got to change carbon or something else.
Right.
But okay, so tell us more about your ORP.
No, you were telling us. You were apparently... Okay, I can tell you.
I only half understand, but you got it.
Apparently you said, okay, Dylan, you don't know anything about what ORP means, and I thought you were going to explain it.
I thought you said it was because I said, "Oh, it's your oxygen level."
No, it's not oxygen.
So-
It's your oxidation reduction potential.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Works for me.
No, okay. So basically what happened was I ordered an ORP sensor and I put it in because I basically wanted to measure how much ozone I was putting into my tank.
Because I just
That's
didn't-
wise.
I didn't know.
I like it.
I have a cheap ozone whatever off eBay. I can't remember the brand name. Whatever you told me.
Probably Weir Pro, the China one.
Yeah,
That
the
I used to
China
use.
one. And that's fine.
And honestly, it works. Like, it works great. But the problem is there's a dial. There's like a min and a max, and I just don't know. And I always have, like, Devin, how much should I do? He's like, oh, well, just don't do too much. I'm like, oh, great, thanks. Good answer.
That is something you'd say totally.
This is what I had to deal with, right? So finally I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet and get this damn sensor. So I put the sensor in. I think it started at like 250, right? That's what the reading said. And basically I was like, okay, it says on a safe level you shouldn't really go over like 400, 450, right? And everybody's tank is going to be different and all that kind of stuff. Devin says you shouldn't get so fixated on the number, but like on the trend, whether it goes up or down. It's an indication on whether something's dying, how much oxygen is going on, bacteria, how much ozone. So basically if you run ozone, that number should increase.
Yes.
Theoretically, right?
In theory, yes.
So I put the sensor in. So I was like, okay, well, I'm starting at 250. Obviously, I have lots of wiggle room here.
Yeah.
I'll turn up my
All
ozone.
out, yep.
So I turned it up quite a bit, and every
It's at max.
single day it dropped. It dropped, and
I would text Devin a few times a day and be like,
Devin, what's going on here? My number's dropping.
More ozone.
And I was like, what the heck is going on? Like right now, I'll just look at my...
I get that. She's like, Devin, my ORP is 212. I'm like,
So
stop.
right now, my ORP...
Yeah, so how do the corals look?
So right now, my ORP is 138.
That seems oddly low.
Yeah. And I've increased my ozone. So, and I have an air bubbler in mine that goes off like every single whatever.
Are your air bubbles hitting your ORP probe and putting micro bubbles on it and screwing with its measurement, possibly?
I thought about that, but
if that was the case, that number would go up though.
It just could be inaccurate.
Yeah, it could be inaccurate. So generally, when you put an ORP probe in, it usually takes a few days for it to like level out and actually give you a proper reading. So just ignore it for the first like 4 days. Or first week. Don't even worry about it.
ignore it.
Ignore it.
6 months.
Just ignore it.
So I think I know what the problem is, or what's going on. I slightly increased my no-pox. So I'm thinking maybe, what do you think? Like a bacterial thing?
Because
when you have
Dude, I think your no-pox and the stuff you're dosing is screwing with your ORP.
that's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm leaning towards.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's highly related to it. Stop dosing it and see if it goes upwards.
And you're probably right. It would probably go up if I stopped dosing it, but so would my nutrients.
Well, but what are your nutrients at? Maybe you need more nutrients.
My nutrients are good, but
I felt like you're overdosing that stuff.
my
before,
nutrients
so.
are good. I can tell you right now.
Quick question in the chat. What is Chemi Pure Blue? Chemi Pure Blue is a mix of carbon and GFO. And yes, that will help with water clarity. What do you got?
I like it.
Okay.
He's on point.
My ALK is 8.23.
Solid.
Calcium's 365.
A little low, but still good.
Magnesium's 1361.
Solid.
Nitrates, well, as of last Friday, I guess, 5.56,
Solid.
which I'm trying to get lower. So that's one of the reasons why I increased my NOPOX, because I'm trying to get that down.
I'm the only one that runs around 15 to 20 for nitrates.
I like 10 to 20. It's a happy zone.
Okay.
I'm chasing
I'm feeling really like,
Okay.
oh man, he's doing good.
I'm chasing numbers here.
Okay, now couple of things here. Your phosphates are 0.086.
Which is phenomenal. Right?
No, not relative to your nitrates. Those are not in balance.
You're right. You're right.
You should have more nitrates relative to your phosphates, or less phosphates relative to your nitrates. Especially if you're trying to get nitrates down. You want that like
Okay, so
1 to 10, 1 to
So
20
ignore
to
the
the
first
ratio.
part you said, right? So basically, as right now, my nitrates are too high compared to my phosphates. Like the ratio. Is that what you're saying?
You should have less phosphate or more nitrate. Pick one.
Don't worry, Sid, I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I okay. Personally, nitrates I like 5 to 20. Phosphates 0.03 to 0.09. So if you have 0.03 phosphates and 5 nitrates, sweet. But if you have 0.09 phosphates, then you should be closer to like 15 to 20 nitrate.
There's a thing. What's it called? It's like a special term, a name, like a ratio. Something
Redfield ratio.
Redfield ratio. That's what it is.
So in this tank, why I got dinos likely is because I have hella high phosphate, which is like 0.17, and my nitrates were like 2 or something, right?
Yeah.
Or less than that. It was super low. That's why.
Open door.
Yeah, so that's why I've been dosing nitrates, right?
Yeah.
So you want that to be in a balance. So stop lowering your nitrates so much, and let it clean up a bit.
I mean, to be truthful, I'm kind of trying to lower both of them.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm trying to get my phosphates to like, what is it, 0.03?
To 0.09, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
But like I do my test once a week.
Mhm.
So that's why, so that reading was from last Friday, and since then I slightly increased my dosing of phosphate E and NOPOX. So I think the next time I do my reading, it's going to be slightly better.
So turn down your nitrate stuff a bit.
My NOPOX, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
You're ready for dosing. Seriously, man.
Yeah.
For dosing
Yeah,
what?
you are like calcium, alkali, magnesium. You're there.
Oh, my readings are good, right? For
I
calcium,
guess, but, like,
magnesium.
you're so close, you could like make it like perfect.
Yeah,
You
just
just-
a little automation.
But
here.
also
I
too,
agree.
like I don't have any coral that really need all that kind of fancy stuff. Like when you make salt, one of the benefits of doing water changes and making salt, right? Like depending on your salt, they have different stuff in it that will put that back into the water, right?
But
water changes.
yeah, but weren't you just talking about you didn't want to do as much water changes?
Yeah, that's right. That's my ultimate goal.
That's the one.
Yeah, so
I like
start-
that.
yeah.
Like I do,
Only when I see a real big issue.
I do probably like a half a gallon water change per day on a 100-gallon tank.
Yeah. That's all right. Okay. Question in the chat. What glass magnets do I use? I use the Flipper Max on my big tank and the Flipper Standard on the office tank. What do you guys use?
Yes, I totally agree. But the best thing is a razor blade with your hand.
I would agree with that. I normally tape a razor blade to a stick. That being said, my Flipper float has performed very well for a glass tank. I would say that one does quite well. But the Mag Float Professional, that is like my go-to. I got a couple tanks I do that are like really thick and they're acrylic. So what I'll do is I use the Magnetic Professional and I put microfiber in between both sides and then I wipe it that way.
Oh,
That works well for me.
I don't have any experience with it.
Speaking of that, for like
It's your Amazon special
the
there.
deep cleaning, like $20 off Amazon, I use the shaving razors.
Absolutely.
This is what I used to do my sandbed once every few weeks. I'll go and just do that edge by the sandbed you don't
You
get.
buy plastic blades for these too. Even I think
Yeah.
Geico sells them. They're just detailer blades.
I think
These are shaving razors, like legit, just like stainless
Well,
steel.
I just buy a box of razors.
So the nice thing about this, I guess,
it's not like super sharp and pointy on the edge, because like you don't want to scratch your glass. Like, so the blades I use are like the standard Milwaukee kind of blade,
Gets me too, yeah.
right? And I just put my hand in there and I just like, it's that it looks brand new when you use a razor blade. Oh, sorry.
Someone's gonna lose a finger.
Yeah, so the whole razor blade goes a long ways.
But mag float seems to be the
Yeah,
the go-to.
I've never used that one.
Same as the old one.
It just floats now.
That's nice.
Gee, it's a tiny hole.
They have a new flipper that has a razor on both sides. That looks pretty sweet. I haven't tried it, but yeah, I'm curious to check that one out next.
Yeah, agreed.
I did try the cheapo Amazon one in the beginning because it looked really nice in the pictures, and then I finally ended up getting the flipper that you got, and you're like finally. You learned.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I don't know. Just getting one. My biggest pet peeve, if it's like not strong enough, it's just like a really crappy magnet and it just doesn't clean well.
Yeah.
So goes a long ways. All right, boys. What are we at? We're about an hour. If you guys got any questions in the chat, let us know.
Yeah, let's get some questions.
Yeah, what do you got? What do you got for questions? Dun, dun, dun. That's what it's called, right? Moonshiners. Moonshiners is a trace element program, and it's basically ICP testing and dosing the exact element to keep everything in that kind of perfect balance. Yep. Flipper cleaned all the coralline algae off my glass. Perfect.
Nice.
Good. Flipper's solid. I like the flipper.
I agree. I like
Yeah.
flippers as
Yeah.
well.
I tried doing changing the magnet on the outside to a different one that's a bit stronger, and it works a little bit better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you throw in there some Princess Auto or what?
No, a different one. I'll show you after.
I gotta see this.
Yeah. So it works pretty good. I don't know. Any other last
Yeah,
lessons
skimmers are not
learned?
optional.
Yeah, you gotta get a skimmer.
Yeah, it is. All right, boys, we're gonna close it up for today. Thanks to the random
Thanks for
live
having
stream,
us.
boys. Yeah,
That was
thanks
fun.
for
That
coming
was
on.
fun. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
Heck
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, guys, if you enjoyed it, as always, hit that like button. Sorry, I know the audio is a smidge echoey from having multiple different mics that are not on the same interface, but it's a last minute throw together, so you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So
Just there, Bruno is asking about a good skimmer for a 50-gallon all-in-one. I personally, I really like the Reef Octopus. I find their build quality is quite good, and their hang-on-the-back style, they work very well for what it is. Get the biggest one you can fit, just straight up, they say it's for a 50-gallon, it's not, they're lying. Get one that's doubled for whatever it is. So if you have a 50, go for like a 100 to 150-gallon tank. Just get the biggest one you can put up with. But I really like Reef Octopus's quality, if you want my honest opinion. They're good.
Okay, I got another little random thing.
thank you so much, Tracy.
Got a question here for skimmer related. So like when I got my skimmer, it was used or whatever, and then the pump on it broke.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to get a new one. Now, what do you guys think? Does how powerful that is? Does that make a difference? Like the more power, the better, the more bubbles? What do you guys think?
Not necessarily. Too much bubbles or air could actually hurt performance because it will pop the bubbles before they make it to the cup. So you do need to tune the air to an extent. So you have a Vertex, one of the older Vertex. The Vertex
Right.
was like a really high quality brand. They're no longer in business though, so you have to do something different if you want to do the pump. But
Like for me to adjust my skimmer, it's basically I just turn the thing and it just changes how much air there is. But that's it. Like that's the only adjustment I have.
If you tell me what pump you have, I can probably just get you the pump, because normally it's like an SP1000 or an SP2000. Like they're actually very much, most of the pumps are pretty similar. They change a few small designs, but man, there's like 4 or 5 pump manufacturers out there. And I love Vertex. I think that's a fantastic product. But I will be honest, I'm a big fan of new skimmers. I find when something dies, I'm like, nope, new boy. I really like new skimmers.
Like I feel like, well, I'm waiting for the Dostronic whenever they make them. They're available, I'll get that. But like after that, probably the next thing is like a new skimmer for me. Like my skimmer works, it's fine. But I feel like there's a
Something
part
about
of
a
me
new
like
skimmer.
it could be a better one, like or more like tunable.
so
I don't know.
if you get Bruno and Tracy, thank you guys so much for the super chats.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Attaboy. So for tunable, so you can get DC skimmers, which let you control the pump, right? You basically have how fast is the pump spinning.
I'm just never turning
And how
down
much
my
air?
skimmer.
Mine's DC, so I replaced the broken one with a DC now.
Like
But for the actual skimmer part,
So both mine are AC. I have NIOS. They're not adjustable, but I've had DC ones in the past. And honestly, like, once you set it once, you never touch it again.
It's 'cause you
At least
bought
I
the NIOS.
haven't. Yeah. So you just, like,
Very nice.
tweak the air and that's about it.
Yep.
But
Okay.
I really like my Nios. He's right. He nailed it. They're gorgeous. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I run them
they
on
work.
2 of my tanks and set it and forget it. Walk away.
Okay.
Beautiful. You could tell the build quality difference,
Yeah.
man. You're right off the hop.
Skimmers are definitely important.
part of me wishes it was like a DC pump, so it'd be a smidge quieter, but it's also pretty darn quiet for an AC.
Yeah.
So overall, I like the NAS one.
See,
But
like,
I've never used Reed Octopus. I know you love those too. So like, I would try
I just
that.
like the quality on
Yeah.
them. I just think they did a great job on them.
Hard to get right now, though.
we're a little fortunate too, like, because ours are like basically behind the wall, our equipment, that we don't really hear it as much.
Yeah.
so it matters less.
So for some people that
Also
have
kind of
maybe
live
their
alone, right?
equipment underneath their tank, you know, DC's going is the way to go, right? So
Yeah, so like DC will be quieter in general for most motors.
I would agree
It's-
with that.
Yep. Overskim means too dry. I don't know. I've never used overskim, but generally you have a wet skim or a dry skim. Wet skim is just more liquidy, more tea-like, where dry skim will be thicker. I tend to go for thicker just so I don't have to empty my skimmer as much. But
I've gone to wet skim just because I find it works better with my Nopox and Phosphate E, because I'm trying to get that out of my system as quick as I can.
So one thing I actually did with that one is I tried a skimmate container. So it actually goes into the container, so I only empty it once a month sort of thing. They actually sell fancy ones. Believe it or not, you can get like a really nice like
Well, I've seen
big-ass
them.
collection cup.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to get an average over a month as opposed to like a week, a couple days. So like
Right.
when you put it in, I'll clean it. Like I said, I'm every month or two I go down there, like if that. So now I have this big container. I mean, we're talking probably 4 gallons probably sort of
Wow.
thing, and it just fills up. I'm like,
That's
that's about
huge.
the texture I want, because like it's things change from week to week, even,
Right.
right? So now I can get a good average of it, and I literally I don't have to clean it out often, right?
if I had a big enough tank, I would just plumb the skimmer straight to the drain.
A lot of my customers
Yeah.
have that, but how much do you skim out?
Well,
And so I literally ran into yesterday one of my customers' house. It's all built in perfectly, but I'm like, every time I go there, I just have to turn the skimmer wheel. I don't know why. I just have to touch it. I have no idea what it's doing because it's going straight into the drain. So I said to the guy I'm working with there, I'm like, man, I really wish it would just go into a bucket even for a week so I know what I'm pulling out, because the system's so big. We're talking a 3,000 gallon.
put a valve on it and go bloop bloop.
But you got no chance of like having an overflow, and then your skimmer and then your stuff goes everywhere. It goes right into the drain, which is
But
nice.
then you have the issue of now you're taking salt water directly, pouring it down the drain while your ATO is pouring fresh water in, and all of a sudden you're at 1.021 or
That
something.
happened to me once.
Yeah, so that would be your heads up. Something's off. If you see your salinity start to go boop.
But who's
Yeah.
watching their
Salinity.
and I actually like I googled it the other day.
You fair enough.
Yes.
Everyone else.
So I looked.
Me, the computer. Why is this thing chirping at me?
I looked for
Deal with that later.
I looked for a salinity tester or sensor probe the other day, and they're crazy expensive.
I might have one at home. I'll see if I got it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw
But
it.
like, because I texted him and I was like, Devin, I'm like, they're like $300, and he's like, oh, because I guess it comes with the Neptune,
Fair enough.
right? And I was like, I guess it's nice to have, but it's like, you know, I just use my HANA checker and it's fine. But like,
Yeah.
if you had one of those probes and you had like a Neptune or a Hydros like I do or whatever, right? You could basically set it so your ATO would turn off as soon as your salinity would go low.
Yeah.
Which would be a nice
Or just
sale.
make it a red warning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Please email and text me.
It happens. Hiccups happen in the system. So
Yep. Yeah, no, it's true. It's very difficult, but that would be my holdup with doing the auto drain, because I've got 3 customers on the auto drain, and I have no idea what it's pulling out or not, and I can't gauge the consistency of it. How do you tell, right?
You could do a 2-stage where it drains into like a container and that has like a overflow into the drain.
So I'm probably going to do very much like that. I'm probably just going to set up a milk jug with a hose going into it so I
Yeah.
can watch it for a week and see what it fills up, because at this point I have no idea, right?
So for my water change, like I automatically change my water, and my old water goes directly into the drain.
Cool.
Like there's
I it.
there's like a
Oh,
fitting.
good on you.
There's like an ABS fitting. It goes into my crawl space, and the 1/4-inch line goes right into there.
Perfect.
Nice work, dude.
Right.
Yep.
I like it. All right, boys, we're going to call her for tonight. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for coming to hang out to the live
thanks for
stream.
having us.
Yeah.
That was really good.
As always, guys, you enjoy it, hit that like button, you're new, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on